What's good, everybody? Welcome to a Niners Nation YouTube podcast. I am Rob Stats Guerrera. Very happy to be joined by a man I know many of you, if not all of you, know already, John Chapman from the 49ers Rush podcast. What's up, John?
Man, what a freaking awesome day. And just like that win yesterday, carrying all that energy into today. Whenever I was clocking into work this morning, I had a bigger smile on my face than normal. The 49ers are playoff bound. I'm excited to be here with you, Rob. Love the show, man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm totally with you. Food tastes better. Colors are brighter. Things are just better when the 49ers are in the playoffs. You were in LA yesterday. So just give me like a feel for the stadium. What percentage would you say were 49er fans?
It was close to 60. Like
Oof.
the Rams, they're famous, like whatever chant that they do is whose house and then Rams house. But every single time, like everybody I was around is mixed crowd. And even the Rams fan were like, man, there's more red. Like you would verbally hear them say, there's more red here. And so from the tailgating before to the takeover events that, we do over the 40 Irish Rush podcast, it was incredible. The community just showed up. And the best part was, in overtime in the fourth quarter, when the Rams were on offense, we were getting defense chants going. And you'd see Matt Stafford covering his helmet because he couldn't hear. It was a home game, man. It was awesome. We definitely
Yeah.
outnumber the Rams fans.
McGlinchey tweeted during the game, it's like the Rams are on silent count. And Stafford said after the game, it was a tough environment for us. It's like, dude, that's your stadium.
And when the games were at the Coliseum, when they were playing in USC Stadium before they built the stadium, it was very similar to that as well. And so I wasn't sure when SoFi came up, especially with the Rams finally having, some success and all that stuff, if the Rams fans would show up. And sure enough, they did not. But the 49ers sure as hell did.
That was incredible. We're going to get to the Dallas game, but I already saw the Cowboys are trying to plan a whiteout for the game against the Niners, which is a dumb idea because it's going to make all the red look that much more noticeable. And I've already seen some Cowboys communities online saying, please don't sell your tickets to 49ers fans. Like they are already worried about the same thing happening.
Yeah, we're right before I jumped on with you, just got off the phone with our venue in Dallas. So we're headed down there again. We're throwing a huge event. If you want to come out and party the night before, tailgate, set up all that stuff, 49ersrushroadtrip.com. You guys can get your spots there. We're throwing a huge party next to the stadium, and the place has a capacity of right at about 280. And I think we're going to hit it because so many people have already reached out, man. We're going to Dallas. The rivalry is so huge. I grew up in Dallas. That's my hometown. And I had a stepdad I couldn't stand whenever I was 9 years old. And so I rooted for the 49ers just to spite that man. And it stuck. And so there's a lot of 49ers fans down there. And I know we're going to travel well. So I'm so pumped about the takeover in Dallas. And it's going to be a fun matchup for sure.
I'm so glad to hear you say that because I started talking to the Niners Nation writers, a lot of them, and I said, hey, we should put together, like an article of top 49ers Cowboys moments. And all the young people started backing away like, that was before my time. I don't know. I can't think of any. I never really got into that. And I'm sitting there like the old dude. I felt like I should have a walker and Velcro shoes on.
Yeah, today, we're recording this Monday. It's the 40th anniversary of the catch itself
Right.
today. Like how beautiful that we get to play them in the playoffs again. I'm so excited, man. The history between this matchup, and I know it is for the newbies, they don't get it, but for us older guys, man, this is our wheelhouse, man. It's memories.
People do not understand what it was like in the 90s. It was like the whole regular season didn't matter at all because you knew it was going to be Niners and Cowboys in the NFC title game. Like it was just get through the year. The only games that mattered were the regular season matchup
Yeah.
between the Niners and Cowboys and then the playoff matchup.
Oh man, I'm pumped. And I'm not that scared of Dallas. Obviously, they're a good team. They've got 12 wins. But man, like before the week 18 took place, I got asked several times, like, who would you want to match up with out of the possibilities? Dallas was number one on the list.
Me too.
I think that it's by far the best matchup for now. Definitely they can lose this game and Dallas is favored, but this is a very winnable game moving forward. And Dallas is not a very hostile environment whatsoever.
Yeah, definitely not. We'll get to that a little bit later, but let's start with this game in particular. You were there, so you probably had some interesting vantage points that I didn't have. Was the 49ers defensive line as dominant as they looked? Every time Sean McVay handed off the ball, I was like, yes, thank you. Like, that's a win for us.
Later in the game, yeah, like it was so weird because the game itself was like a true microcosm of the entire season altogether. We saw the first 2 drives where the Rams could do whatever they wanted, drove straight down the field, back-to-back touchdowns, and it was just like, man, nothing was going right. But as the game went on, the defense started to just dominate the game. We started forcing 3-and-outs. And man, I felt like Matt Stafford was getting hit just nonstop. They were just always up in his face. I loved every bit of it. And I mean, if you just look at like quarterback hits and all those things, we had 13 quarterback hits and 5 sacks. It's hard to perform. There's a reason why the offense went cold for the Rams, and they kind of got away from Cooper Kupp, but it was all about the defensive line. Defensive line was everywhere.
DeMeco Ryans deserves a ton of credit for what he has done with the 49ers defense. I think he has grown so much, even from the start of the year up until now. You know, we talked about what Trey Lance might do and what all these rookies might do. We had a rookie defensive coordinator, and I think he has grown by leaps and bounds from week 1 to week 18.
And, you know, we've been pretty spoiled, right? You had Fangio, then we've got some dark times, but then, then
we don't talk about that.
Then we got Saleh, then we got DeMeco, and Robert Saleh was amazing. The issue that I think a lot of people kind of forget is he was notorious for making 0 adjustments his first year and a half as a DC. DeMeco, no. Like DeMeco made so many adjustments at halftime, and the plays that were kind of beating us, he just wiped out. Cooper Kupp had an amazing game, and definitely needs to be considered with the MVP. I hate that it's just a quarterback only thing, but you had this Cooper Kupp versus Debo moment, even though they're not out there at the same time, and it was just like, who's going to be better? And they both were better. Like, I don't think there was a loser in that matchup, but to be able to kind of isolate him late was very, very important. And so DeMeco deserves all the credit. And again, think about all the complaints and complaining, social media and Twitter about the cornerback position for the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely deserves criticism. However, whenever you look at the stats and kind of what we've been able to do, what the 49ers have been able to do, we're a top 10 defense, even with Josh Norman starting the majority of these games. With number 27 out there playing 3 positions in one game, that's not how you draw it up, but he made it work. Duct tape DeMeco, man. I mean, the dude just, he kept it together, even though you had multiple linebackers out. You had Tart injured, then Huff's injured. Like, you're just piecing stuff together, and it worked against one of the better offenses in the NFL.
And the interesting thing, I thought, if you compare the two, I thought that most of the plays, not all, but most of the plays the Rams were making on offense were, to me, more due to the fact that Matt Stafford just went nuts for a few plays and dropped some throws in some places that were amazing, frankly. I'm thinking of one specifically to Cooper Kupp deep. He threw kind of like a fade. I don't know how he got it off, and he dropped it perfectly. I think it was over Mosley, actually. But when I look at the 49ers side of things, guys were wide open. Like, Kyle was scheming guys open like crazy in this game. Ayuk had a few catches where nobody was near him. The game-winning touchdown to Jennings, he's so open. There's nobody close to Jawan Jennings. I thought Kyle and DeMeco both threw the kitchen sink at the Rams, and almost everything worked, especially in the second half.
Yeah, it was interesting. Let me preface this, okay? Because I think this is important. I don't want people to take this out of context. Jimmy played very, very well, all in all, whenever you look at the entirety of the game. He was awful early, and he wasn't really even good until late. Like, going back through the film, and I don't think I got until the 4th quarter where it was like, okay, that was a high quality pass. It was like you're saying, there was a lot of scheme and all those things. I'm not trying to diminish what Jimmy did. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. But whenever you look at what Matt Stafford was doing, like, his great throws that game were great throws. You look at Jimmy's throws and it's like, okay, yeah, this is a, timing and anticipation route, and he's throwing it. He's hitting his mark. Like, it's efficient. It's good. But that's just kind of who Jimmy is. But later in the game, then we started seeing some of those third down passes to, Juwan Jennings, some of those things. That was huge. But yeah, there's just such a difference in the makeup of these teams, the stylistic play of the Rams offense and the 49ers offense. One's all splashes, even though the 49ers have bigger plays, a lot of that's their personnel with the yards after catch and all those things. But it's Matt Stafford doing these insane deep throws and whatever else, whereas we're doing, curls, hooks, curls, and flat routes out, and so it's interesting because you're right. Kyle, he put them in a wonderful position to be successful. Not early, but eventually he stayed with it. I'm so glad he didn't abandon the running game because it wasn't working early, but he stayed with it for sure and then paid off.
Yeah, 5 rushes for 10 yards in the first half for the 49ers. And they exploded in the second half of that game. Did you notice McVay going onto the field after the first Higbee touchdown and then literally into the end zone after the second, to the point where the referee is like, dude, what are you doing? Get out of here.
So, like, where I was sitting, I was at the 200 level, so I had pretty good seats. I was like, what are the chances back-to-back weeks a little kid ran onto the field? Like, who would have guessed? Yeah, so, like, you could see him down there, and, I mean, it was just like, really? Like, all right. And at that point, it really did feel it was 17-0. They kicked the extra point right after that. And it was just like, okay, the 49ers are currently losing special teams, offense, and defense. All 3 phases of the game, they are losing. The good news is there's a lot of time left. You've got to change something. And then we got that field goal right before the half. It wasn't even at halftime. Like, it didn't feel like, oh, we're coming back. Like, I mean, Rams fans were talking mad trash at halftime. And I was like, all right, cool. All right. And then once we scored out of the half, it shut up the rest of the game. Nobody else. Like, it just, you felt the oxygen go out of the Rams fans. Just whenever it was 10-17, it was like, oh, crap, now it's a game. But yeah, McVay, you celebrate with your team. You do what you got to do. You might want to wait till the second half at least before you start doing stuff like that.
I mean, he clearly wanted this game. And just like the fans, they all knew it. I think the Rams felt it too, because you saw Stafford throws the pick to Mosley and McVay gathers everybody on the sideline and huddles them up. And I think that whole discussion was, hey, guys, don't get down. He was trying to fight that whole here we go again feeling. And I think it definitely set in for the Rams. And after 5 straight and now 6 straight wins, how could it not?
Yeah, you could tell by their defense. Like, the one area where I really felt like you could start to feel the 49ers were imposing their will was that 10 straight run drive where they ran the ball 10 straight times. And then Debo, incredible. Debo finished with a perfect quarterback rating, the 158.3, which is beautiful. Almost got dropped by Juwan Jennings, but man, what a game by Jennings. But 10 straight runs, then a running back pass. And I almost felt like at that point, like, because again, they're not trusting Jimmy Garoppolo at that point. This is off of the second interception. You come out of the second half and you just run. It's like, oh man, it started feeling very similar to that 2019 playoff run against the Vikings and the Packers. But then after that, Shanahan said, screw it, and threw the ball 32 times with Garoppolo, and Garoppolo responded.
I have talked about the 49ers offense. It's kind of like a train. It takes a while to get moving, but once it's moving, it's almost unstoppable. That's how it feels like with Kyle Shanahan. The only thing that derails it is when Jimmy just drives things into a lake randomly and then, maybe gets credit for driving the team out of the lake sometimes.
That's the rough one, right? Because, the analogy, I love what you just said, Rob. I always say, like, if somebody sets your house on fire, then puts the fire out, are they a hero? And I'm like, I don't think so, because Jimmy set the house on fire, but he came away with the win on the road in overtime. And we've seen so many times this year where he got close enough to win in the end, like the Green Bay game, so many of those things where he did enough to win, but then the defense, gave up the field goal late or whatever. I think it was really, really important for this team to see the offense put them in a position and the defense to answer the call and get that complimentary win on the road that galvanizes your locker room. Because now you have Ambry Thomas, who's been getting picked on, he's been in position, right? He's been in great position, just not making the plays, finally makes that play. And the confidence for that kid, which at the cornerback position, confidence is probably the quarterback and the cornerbacks. Those guys have to play with confidence. And that rookie's got to be sky high right now, Ambry Thomas.
It is crazy that we have like literally seen him progress. He gets in, he has a bad game, he gets burned. The Seahawks got him a couple of times.
Yeah.
Then against the Titans, we saw him break up some passes in the goal line. You're like, okay, he's doing a little bit better. Then against Houston, he drops a pick six. He's in perfect position, great coverage, clang right off the hands. And then this game, literally matched up against Odell Beckham at the end of the game in overtime. He makes a perfect leaping interception, stays in bounds, and the Niners go to the playoffs. Like it has been crazy to literally see like the game by game progression of Ambry Thomas getting better.
And what people forget, and he even talked about this in the post-game presser, he didn't play at all last year. Yeah, he was one of the very first people in the country that took that COVID exemption. He knew he was going to the NFL, so he took the COVID exemption and didn't play at all last year and was dealing with some medical stuff before that. So it's not like, he just took the time off or whatever, but not playing football for that long, it took him a while to get back into the NFL type shape that he needed to be in. And everybody was so quick to claim, oh, he's a bust whenever Demo was getting playing time over him in training camp. Demo looked great. But it was just like, man, sometimes you just got to wait. You got to wait. And this is a late third round pick. Adam Peters championed this kid and made sure that the 49ers got him. And he's paid off. And I know everybody wants to talk about how bad the cornerback position is. I don't think it's that bad with our starters. You have Jason Verrett's out for sure. We understand that. But Mosley and Ambry Thomas both got interceptions, key interceptions. I don't know, man. I like those corners moving forward.
I certainly feel a lot better about things now than I did, earlier in the year. But just look at the rookie draft class. Elijah Mitchell plays, gets better. Ambry Thomas plays, gets better. Even Trey Lance has looked better and better the longer he has played. Like, I don't know if Kyle just like is afraid or what the deal is, but like, let's get Aaron Banks some snaps, man. Come on. Let's get everybody into the pool here. They all seem to be coming together once they get a little experience.
I think it's weird how he wants to redshirt everybody. It's bothersome for sure, except for the last pick that he took, right? The
Right.
6th round pick that we got was Elijah Mitchell. He's got the most playing time. But this rookie draft class has some pull, and there's been some hits, like you just said. I mean, that's 3 clear hits. I can't believe Jalen Moore didn't get a start over Colton McKivitz. McKivitz didn't look great, but I mean, going against the Rams and Leonard Floyd, the majority of those snaps was rough for sure. One of the biggest things, my takeaway early for why the 49ers were struggling, they couldn't get pushing the run game on the left side without Trent Williams. And we kept George Kittle blocking way more than he normally does, even though he blocks a lot. Mm-hmm. He wasn't releasing on a lot of routes because they were needing help. Almost like the Bosa effect teams with us. Like, we kept Kittle back to block because we didn't have that bookend, with Trent Williams. But I do expect him to be back next week for the Cowboys, so that's going to be huge.
Yeah, I mean, Trent is an absolute monster. And when he couldn't play, I mean, he was literally going out there in warmups to see if he could go. So hopefully you would think with another week off, he'd be able to get out there and make a huge difference for the 49ers. The other guy I wanted to shout out is Dre Greenlaw. I thought Dre Greenlaw played like a man on fire in that game. He actually could have gotten flagged a couple of times. He got flagged once for one hit on Van Jefferson. He actually could have got a couple more, but he was everywhere out there, flying around. He suplexed Cam Akers at one point. Like, I don't know what got into him, but man, he was a man possessed.
I'm one of the biggest Dre Greenlaw fans on and off the field. He's just a great human being. He was a little amped up. I think he had too many 5-hour energies before the game. But like, you're right, man. He was very vocal, which is something that we haven't seen. And it was almost like he picked up, like, he's wanted to play all year, had the nagging groin injury, comes back, re-aggravates it, had missed more time. But you could tell he showed up with bad intentions. And he led the team in tackles, 12 tackles, had that huge quarterback hit where he blitzed late and forced the 4th down punt. But he shows up the last week. You remember week 17 in 2019,
I do
the
recall
stop on
that.
the
Yes.
goal line, right? Like this kid shows up when it's time. And if we get Aziz back, oh, I'm telling you, man, we have one of the deepest linebacking cores in the NFL. And DFF played very well as well. Get it sparingly, but he made some very positive plays. Pro Football Focus had him as the 49ers highest rated defender. He looked really, really good.
If we zoom out a little bit, one of my big points in the instant reaction podcast that I did yesterday was think of how the legacies change just on the result of this one game, right? The 49ers lose. Kyle Shanahan has 4 out of 5 years with no playoffs. He lost a year of development for Trey Lance. Jimmy Garoppolo kind of, hamstrung the team all year long. It's a disaster for the 49ers. They win this game. Now, Kyle Shanahan has gone to the playoffs in 2 out of the last 3 years. He was right to keep Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Because they got back to the playoffs. Now they're the team that nobody wants to play. Lance has looked decent when he's got the opportunity to fill in. Like the whole narrative of everything shifts on the outcome of this one game.
It's unfair, but this is a results-based business. I mean, shoot, we just saw Brian Flores get fired. What did he go 8-1 down the stretch? Like that's ridiculous. He shouldn't have got fired, but I digress. You're right. It's narratives, unfortunately, kind of fill themselves. And when we saw earlier when the 49ers were 3-5, man, it's social media, so you can take that for what it is. But a lot of people very unhappy with this front office, coaching staff, everybody, the entire organization. But sometimes you got to chill. The 49ers have a playoff roster. Now, they're still lead the entire NFL in most snaps missed over the 2021 season, so injuries are a thing. But you can't always rest your hat on that like you did in 2020. You've got to be able to step up and build depth. And I think that's one of the things that this team has gotten better at is depth. When Jimmy went out, Trey went 1-1 as a starter this year, but he almost beat Arizona and he won against the Texans. And if he loses that game, 49ers don't make the playoffs. And so, like, you getting the depth, it's not Nick Mullins out there. It's, and once that depth is there, I mean, we just won this game against the Rams without probably our best offensive player or one of them in Trent Williams. And we were able to still put up 27 points.
No Trent Williams, no K'Wan Williams. So there's our slot corner. Your punter goes down early in the game. Like it was a ridiculous amount of adversity that the 49ers had to overcome. And shout out Robbie Gould.
Yes.
2 huge punts, 147 yards, 143 yards. And Kyle Juszczyk stepping in as the holder, no problem. I don't know if like Richard Hightower is doing holding drills with Juice or how that worked out, but the special teams mostly had a really good day, except for the one punt return they gave up, which set the Rams up at the 19-yard line. That was not good. But other than
that's
that,
where he got hurt too, because Mitch went over and made that tackle. But hey, I cannot say enough about Robbie Gould. I'm not the biggest kicker guy, but the fact that he got 2 touchbacks on kickoffs, which Mitch cannot do. So, right, that was huge in and of itself. And he downed a punt inside the 20, which, again, Mitch did not have one of those as well. So Robbie Gould actually had a better, longer punt average than Mitch did as well. So, like, there's been some issues with Mitch Wisnowski for sure. I mean, he's a 4th-round punter, which is weird to say in and of itself. But whether he's been injured this year or they're trying to do some like knuckleball punts, whatever, he has not been productive at all. And so for the 49ers special teams to actually play better when Mitch went out, I think that's interesting. Obviously you want him back, but something's got to, you got to improve at some point instead of keep, regressing like he has been, unfortunately. But yeah, Robbie Gould, incredible. Kyle Juszczyk, awesome. And Debo, sticking with special teams. As soon as we put Debo back there, they kicked it through the end zone every time. I mean, we started on the 8-yard line, I think, one time because we had a penalty on kickoff return.
Yes.
And then we put Debo back there, and they're like, yeah, screw that. No more short kicks. We don't want Debo touching the ball. So that's not a touch for Debo, but he's already helping the offense out. Keep him back there, man. Keep him back there. I know
it was a relief for me. Every time I saw the ball going into the end zone, I was like, yes, we cannot fumble this if we don't touch it. Thank God. But hey, that's good on the 49ers. Can we just have Robbie Gould like punt and kick? We're paying him enough next year. Could he just do both?
I'm fine with that. I am really I've been saying, like, especially since we're down numbers and like we can't even fill up the whole inactive list, why don't you just bring in a kicker that can kick the ball through the end zone and that's his only job? Like, we've got the extra roster spot. Like, I'm sick and tired of not being able to kick a freaking touchback with our poor coverage. So that was like, it's crazy the difference that makes for the defense and the offense. Like, it's hidden yards that we are not good at, but it was a nice look for sure against the Rams.
I think that this was the 49ers' first total team victory of the season. Everybody contributed in a significant way. It wasn't just like, well, the defense was really good and the offense helped a little with one drive. Like, no, everybody had their turn in this one to make a big play, and they all did. And now the 49ers live rent free in the Rams' head. They have 10 win season. They're in third place in the NFC West, which means they have a third place schedule in 2022, which is crazy to even think about. It's too early to think about, but it is sort of a nice thing to have in your back pocket. And the draft pick that they're giving over to Miami doesn't look good. So many things turned out in the 49ers way just based off this one win. And I love, by the way, I love that no matter what Sean McVay says, Kyle Shanahan has a response to it. You might have won
And
more games than me, but I kick your butt every time we play. You made a Super Bowl. I made a Super Bowl. Like, it is a weird thing between them.
I think a lot of it too, and it's not even just him, but Raheem Morris, the defensive coordinator for the Rams, was with Kyle Shanahan in Tampa, Washington, and Atlanta. Like, he coached with his dad too. So like, there's so many ties between that coaching staff and Kyle Shanahan. And it was really funny because as soon as the 49ers won, the interception happens, they cut over the announcements real quick. Congratulations to your Los Angeles Rams NFC West champions. Like, in 2 seconds. And it was like, man, y'all just got ran out of your home stadium. And like, it was just funny. Like, it was comical because like even the Rams fans were chuckling a little bit at that because it was like, dude, you just lost. But you're right. There's the NFC West is so weird because it's a matchup driven league, as most are, the division, and like different teams hold the other teams in check. It's almost like a rock paper scissors, roundabout with four teams. But make no mistake, 49ers own the Rams. And Sean McVay is not going anywhere anytime soon. Kyle Shanahan's not going anywhere anytime soon. And I love it because we traded all those picks for a young developmental quarterback. They traded all those picks for Von Miller, Matt Stafford, and guess what? Still didn't matter, and they're all aging vets. So like I love the different trajectories between the Niners and the Rams there as well.
I wouldn't be so sure about McVay not going anywhere for a while. I could
Ooh,
see him making the analyst jump sooner than you might think. I think that burnout is a real thing with him. He's talked about it before. Plus, he's younger than me, that jerk. He's going to be starting a family potentially soon. That changes priorities for somebody. And if you're McVay, you could go to ESPN or CBS or whoever and say, "Give me my 15 million a year. I'll get paid a comparable amount to work way less, have
yeah.
way less stress." Kyle Shanahan will never do that. He hates the media. Kyle Shanahan is a football lifer. I would say McVay, you never know. I'm not saying it's happening anytime soon, but you never know.
Yeah, he even did that Flying Coach podcast with Peter Schrager this offseason. It was really, really good listen. They had all the different coaches on and whatever else. Kyle was on there as well. But yeah, you
Mhm.
could tell he likes being in front of the camera for sure.
No, he's a
There's no
mover and a
doubt about that.
shaker. I used to produce Pro Football Talk for NBC, and we used to go to the owners' meetings, and we would have everybody on because all the coaches, all the GMs, the owners, they're all there. And we had McVay on. I'll never forget this. He made it a point to shake every single person's hand on the set. Camera people, me, the producer, hosts,
Respect that.
anybody that was there. He gets it, man. Like, he went out of his way to do that. He knows how to play the game. That's all I'll say about McVay.
That's awesome. I actually like McVay, but obviously the rivalry and all that stuff for sure. Like, I want him to lose, but like I don't mind him. I don't mind him, especially the grandson of McVay for the 49ers. So
Mhm.
you got to bring that. You got to bring that. A little bit of respect there.
One of the things I've spent time doing today, because we're getting all the news now, who's fired, who's not coming back, who's retiring, all that stuff, and the rumor mill is in full, just churning out names right now. I haven't seen anybody for the 49ers brought up in relation to any job, which I'm stunned with because there was so much interest around the 49ers and people in the organization last year. Do you think that this could be a year where maybe the 49ers kind of go unpoached, so to speak?
Yeah, I think with the young upcomers, especially D'Amico, who's been incredible, he needs more time, more season. He's already had a very accelerated rate to get to BDC. And I think eventually he's going to get there. He's been incredible this year. And I think if you look at the offensive side as well, you could say the same thing about our OC. I mean, he's not calling plays, like all that kind of stuff there. But you're part of that Shanahan coaching tree, especially if you have some of that offense. You're going to get a job eventually. It's just going to take some time. I mean, you can see even Guerrera, our quarterbacks coach, he left and came back, but eventually he's going to get a shot too. It's just going to take some more time for sure. And man, again, D'Amico, incredible dude. He's commanding performance on the sideline. I'm so impressed with him. He should be up for the Broyles Award. That's like the college coaching, the best coordinator award, whatever. Like, he deserves that, man. He's been on fire, but he's not going anywhere anytime soon. We got him for at least another year or two.
Yeah, I remember when Kyle announced that he was hiring D'Amico, he said it's only a matter of time before he's a head coach. And I was kind
Yeah.
of like, hey, dude, how about we just let him worry about being a good defensive? Like, he had big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
And maybe I would say since like week 7 or 8, nobody has said the name Robert Saleh in relation to the 49ers at all.
No. And, one more coach that I think should be considered but won't because of his position, that's Chris Kusarik, who's been unreal. The problem is, even back in my coaching days, like, D-line coach usually don't get promoted up to DCs or head coaches, except for Jim Tomsula, in which
Sometimes they
case that
do.
probably shouldn't have. But it's just different because not that I used to coach D-line. My first 5 years, I was a D-line coach. It's just different. It's almost like the running back coach on the like, it's just not as complex. It's very, very simple transitions. The positions transfer relatively easy as well from the college to NFL. So I don't think that he's going to get a look for a DC job, but he's deserving of it. It's just teams don't like to usually go after D-line guys.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Arden Key, you look at Contavious Streets had flashes this year. I mean, Mo Hurst, if the poor guy could stay on the field, I think would
Yeah.
be a significant contributor. But I mean, everybody on that 49ers D line, Kevin Givens, I mean, even if you go back, to last year, like the Niners are bringing in guys and they are getting more out of the guys when they are here than other people have gotten elsewhere. And that is directly a sign of good coaching.
Yeah, and it shows. Like, whenever you can do these things with all these backups, these guys were cut. Arden Key was cut. He was let go. Now he's second on our team with sacks. One of the things that I think so special about this defensive group is they're finding these guys to put up incredible, efficient stats with very few snaps. Okay, Demetrius Flanagan-Fouts, he played 9 snaps, was all over the place. Kevin Givens, 10 snaps, right? So, like, these guys that are making huge plays but limited snaps. Jordan Willis, 15 snaps. And so, to be able to keep your studs out there, the Bosas, Eric Armstead, who probably had the best defensive game of any player on the field,
Yes.
including the Rams. Dude was a best game of his career, possibly. But, like, you're finding these guys filling these roles and building that depth. And that's what's huge, because at the beginning of this year, whenever the 49ers were put in the Bravo defensive line group, it was just like, oh no, here it goes. They just run straight up the middle. We couldn't do anything, and it was just awful. You can't say that anymore. And again, another one of the adjustments that D'Amico made was he's not doing the entire Bravo group anymore. It's Bravo +1 that I call it, because he'll put 3 backups, but he'll keep Armstead, he'll keep DJ Jones or one of those guys out there with him instead of just an entire reserve unit going out there. And I think that's brought some stability as well.
Javon Kinlaw is not even out there. Like, we forgot that Javon Kinlaw is injured, is not playing right now. That's how good they've been, especially up the middle. You cannot run on the 49ers right now.
No, one of the best, if not the best. And so that's going to be a fun matchup. whenever you look at the Dallas Cowboys. It's not so much Zeke, even though I think Zeke's finally healthy again. It's Pollard. Pollard's the scary one. I don't want to jump too much into next week, but that's going to be key. You've got to force the Cowboys to be one-dimensional and throw the ball. That's what you've got to do. Very similar to what they did with the Rams. You do that, you got a very good chance of winning. But if the Cowboys can establish the run, that's where it's going to be like, all right, it's going to be a trouble game.
Whose offensive line do you think is playing better right now, the 49ers or the Cowboys?
That's a good question. If Trent Williams would have played this past week, I would have said the 49ers, because Tom Compton, I hate to say it, he's been much better than Mike McGlinchey has. And which is crazy to say. I was not a Compton guy. I was very upset whenever they kept him on the initial 53 man. I was like, that's a waste. Wrong. And I will sit here in my wrongness
and be wrong.
I'll take it and be wrong. There we go. What's up, Martin Short? But like the whole thing is this, like, the 49ers are playing good offensive line wise. The Cowboys have the potential when they're healthy. They have not been very healthy. And again, like Tyron Smith, who whenever he's out there, that's a different offense. And you could say that about any team with, a dominating left tackle. But whenever he's healthy, you could argue the two best left tackles in the game are Trent Williams and Tyron Smith.
I am so excited for this matchup against the Cowboys. I think that I just have confidence in Kyle Shanahan, like playoff Kyle. Like, I think he's just I just have such faith in him to come up with some sort of crazy game plan. And I think what solidified it for me was in the NFC title game, when they run that on the first touchdown, it's third down, it's third and like 6. And Kyle runs a draw to Mostert and he runs in for the touchdown. And at that moment, I was like, he's got him. Like, to call a draw in that spot, he knew it was going to break for a touchdown. And I was like, Kyle's in his bag and we're not losing.
I remember that play like it was yesterday. I'm one of the biggest proponents on running the ball on third and long because I want to be aggressive, especially if you're in field goal range, you go for it in fourth down, whatever. And they were in that spot. And I think it opens things up. And we even saw that this week versus the Rams with a Jermichael Hasty rare run on third down, and he got the first down. I was just like, oh,
as the up man too. I did not like that play, but it worked.
I was so pumped, man. I don't know why. I love running the ball on third down. And my least favorite thing is when we go empty with Jimmy Garoppolo. I hate it because it takes away the threat of running, which is the entire offense. I don't like it, but that's okay. I will talk to my counselor about this more this week.
It is amazing how Kyle Shanahan could simultaneously, I could have such faith in him to come up with this amazing game plan and then also be so infuriated by him for the stupid decisions I think he makes.
Yeah, it's been an up and down year, and I love Kyle Shanahan. I really, and I think a big problem, just as a podcaster and somebody that creates content, and I'm sure you have the same thing, Rob, it's like, I love Kyle Shanahan. I'm glad he's our coach. I'm very happy. That doesn't mean you can't criticize him or Jimmy Garoppolo, whatever. That's and so people get upset sometimes whenever you say, man, I really don't like the way that he's doing this. Like, oh, have faith in your coach. I do have faith in my coach. However, he's still learning. He's still a young coach. He's still got a long time to go in this league, and he can get better. And he even says those things too, whenever he says like, oh, I should have called a better game. That's what we're talking about there. So I love Kyle Shanahan. I really am glad that he's the 49ers head coach. Still, some things drive me crazy.
Last question for you. And I put this to my co-host in the Instant Reaction podcast because I think my feelings have changed on it. How do you look at the rest of the season for the 49ers? Do you think that if they don't make a deep playoff run, it's disappointing? Or do you look at it as, hey, it's been a crazy year. We're in the playoffs. Whatever happens is gravy.
Yeah, I'm a little closer to the latter there. I think you're playing with the bank's money. You got pretty damn close to losing that game, and you had to go all out, win in overtime, and it was incredible, galvanizing the roster. Like, I think I used that term before. Like, I feel that way with this team currently. I expect the 49ers to beat the Cowboys. However, if for some reason it doesn't happen, I don't consider this year a failure. I think the future is very, very bright. Whenever we made the trade all the way up to number 3 for Trey Lance, like, you start looking at the roster and where they are, you circle 2022 and 2023. That's what this team is built for. So if you get somewhere now, that's great. That really is great. But you look at the way they drafted, even this year, a lot of them are redshirt guys building depth that are going to step in. Most of the free agents we signed this year were 1-year deals. Like, it was almost a mercenary group that we brought in, even though a lot of them were with us. You're not going to be able to do that again. So I think where the team is going, the championship window, I mean, you're in the tournament. We'll see what happens. But if I am a betting man, that 2022 and the 2023 season, those are the ones that you kind of circle, because you still have that Trey Lance rookie deal. You still got Trent Williams out there, hopefully. I think that's kind of the window. So the future's bright, and I'm very happy with where we are. I'm flying out to Dallas. I'm pumped about it, but I don't think that this is a determination of the Shanahan or this team. I think that you got in despite being 3-5, and let's see. Let's play with the bank's money. Let's see what can happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do. I feel good about the Cowboys game, just like you said. I would not be stunned at all if the 49ers won it. John, thank you so much for the time. You can follow him on Twitter at JL_Chapman, 49ers Rush Podcast. If you search John Chapman on YouTube, you can get that, and you can get so much more film breakdowns that will make you a smarter fan. You make me a smarter fan. So I thank you very, very much for the time.
Man, thanks. A big fan of what you do, and just appreciate you as a person, man. Thanks a lot, Rob.